Welcome back to the Daily Dose of Latin as we begin John chapter 9. You'll notice something a little bit different about the format in this video as we tackle 2 verses instead of 1 as usual. We'd love to hear your feedback on this approach. You can contact us and let us know your thoughts at contact@dailydoseoflatin.com. John 9, 1-2. Et praeteriens vidit hominem caecum a nativitate. Et interrogaverunt eum discipuli sui, Rabbi, quis peccavit, hic aut parentes eius, ut caecus nasceretur. And passing by, he saw a man blind from birth, and his disciples asked him, Teacher, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? We've got a new encounter between Jesus and someone needing his aid in this passage right at the beginning of chapter 9. And there's a few things we want to note, a few interesting items of vocabulary. Nativitas, if you have any experience with Christmas celebrations involving Latin carols, and you know who you are, some of you do, I know, don't pretend that you don't, you'll recognize nativitas as the general word for birth, coming into the world. You might recognize it from, for instance, its Spanish reflex in Navidad. And that's going to be a typical feminine abstract noun of the third declension, like virtus or veritas, and will decline appropriately. So here we have the ablative singular after a. We also want to note the minor intrusion of this loan word, rabbi, which we've seen before, teacher, of course from Hebrew. And it's worth mentioning as well, this verb, praetereo, is the compound verb that you'd want to look up in the dictionary. The participle, here the present active participle, looks a little bit different. Praetereo, to go past, praeterire, and that's that word for go that you learned way back when in your textbook, to pass by. We also want to note probably that vidit is third person singular, perfect active indicative. So passing by, and the unspoken subject here is Jesus. Jesus saw a man. We've got an adjective further defining our person here, caecum, who was blind from birth. That is to say, he was born blind. And Jesus's disciples, and because Jesus is the main figure in this picture who is acting and reacting to questions that are asked of him and so forth, we've got to understand sui as referring back to him. His own disciples asked him, interrogaverunt, asked Jesus the following question. We can add some punctuation here. Rabbi, quis peccavit, hic aut parentes eius, ut caecus nasceretur. Who sinned? And notice the assumption here, which Jesus is going to tackle in the next couple of verses. They're assuming here that this must have happened. Who sinned? This guy or his parents? And those seem to be the logical choices which are available to them. This is a typical use of hic, haec, hoc, and parentes we've seen before, and you could guess if you haven't. Now, the real star of the show here syntactically is this clause, ut caecus nasceretur, that he was born blind. Notice the imperfect subjunctive. That's following the sequence of tenses. The imperfect subjunctive following a main verb in the perfect tense, and this is past perfect. It's not who has sinned, but who sinned in the past, not the present result, that is, but the past action. Who sinned, when we're talking about a simple past action like that, and we want to indicate time at the same time as or subsequent to, we use the imperfect subjunctive. And again, that is the consecutio temporum, or the sequence of tenses, that you can look up in your textbook if that's a little bit fuzzy. So this follows the regular pattern. What kind of clause are we going to call this? I think it makes the most sense to call it a result clause. Who sinned, this guy or his parents? Notice the singular verb, right, which goes with the first, not so easily with the second here, but it's okay. We understand the sense. You can do that in Latin. Who sinned, this guy or his parents? with the result that he was born blind.